I'm conflicted about whether I can bring myself to cause the pain I know will soon be inflicted on someone innocent. Someone who truly doesn't deserve what's about to happen within the next half hour. But as I look at the large, carefully framed photo of me and Ethan from our wedding day, proudly displayed above the mantel, my dry eyes reflect the emotional toll of a mostly happy 28-year marriage. I shed my tears long ago, debating within myself if I should even proceed with this conversation. The decision is made, yes. Yet, I still fight the urge to escape. Ethan is going to be devastated. Sitting beside me on the couch, Liam gently squeezes my hand, giving me a boost of courage. I glance sideways at him, managing a grateful smile. Over the past 15 months of our affair, I've fallen deeply in love with Liam, and I'm fully aware that every ounce of affection I've given him has been taken away from Ethan. The day it felt like I was betraying Ethan by making love to my own husband was the day I began preparing for this confrontation. I'm not eager for it, but I know I'll feel relief when it's finally over. I'm about to hurt Ethan profoundly, and it's unavoidable. But when it's done, I'll be free of the pretense. Faking the same depth of love that Ethan still feels for me, pretending to spend time with friends, go on work trips, or run errands, only to secretly meet Liam, is an exhausting charade that contributes to the worry lines I see more each morning. Yes, I look forward to the release. I glance toward the bookcase, double-checking that the baseball bat I discreetly set there is still within reach. I'm well aware of Ethan's stance on fidelity. Since the kids moved out, he's been reading short stories about unfaithful wives facing the consequences of their actions. Some of the stories surprised me with how harshly husbands reacted, punishing their wives severely. When I asked him about it, he vaguely mentioned coworkers who'd gone through turmoil in no-fault divorce cases, citing these stories as similar. Ethan isn't a violent man by nature, but facing the person taking his happiness and future might push him past his limit. Compared to Liam, Ethan is bigger, stronger, and fitter, though less sensitive. He's also an executive at a biomedical company, contrasting with Liam's life as an artist. I'm confident Ethan won't harm me, so I'll be able to hold his attention long enough for Liam to get away. I hear Ethan's car pulling into the driveway, and my stomach tightens. Heart pounding, I swallow hard and take a deep breath to steady myself. What's he thinking as he notices the unfamiliar car? Liam's car. I wonder if Ethan remembers the first story he read about infidelity. My pulse quickens as I brace myself to stay calm. Ethan walks in, casting a curious look at Liam. I stay seated, avoiding our usual greeting kiss in Liam's presence. Ethan notices the omission and extends his hand to Liam, introducing himself as Ethan. After a brief pause, Liam accepts the handshake, but Ethan subtly wipes his hand on his pants. A familiar gesture after so many years. Liam retreats back to the couch. Ethan grabs a beer, takes a seat across from us, sips, and then places the can on the coffee table beside our glasses. The tension feels like a branch bending too far, just on the verge of snapping. I can't bring myself to meet Ethan's questioning gaze, so I glance at his outfit instead, noting his casual attire. Since when did he start coming home dressed so informally? I shake off the trivial distraction. Now is the moment I've dreaded, the one where I break the heart of a remarkable father, provider, and nearly flawless husband, the man who was my first love, but not my last. I tell him we need to talk. Ethan looks at me with a neutral, almost unreadable expression. As I anticipated, he stays calm and analytical under pressure, keeping his composure better than I can. Despite rehearsing what to say, my nerves betray me. I begin by assuring him that he has done absolutely nothing wrong. My voice trembles as I clear my throat, still unable to look him in the eye. For years, my friends have admired our marriage, often expressing envy. Ethan has truly been an exceptional husband. I chuckle lightly, but Ethan doesn't return the smile. Trying to soften the blow that's about to come, I admit that I'm worried about telling certain friends, fearing they won't forgive me for hurting him. My gaze wanders past his shoulder, hoping for a hint of warmth or understanding. But Ethan's expression remains as impassive as stone. His lips finally part, and he asks in a steady, simple way if I'm about to hurt him. The question is plain yet piercing, and it brings my gaze back to his. I finally look into his eyes, but his stare is unyielding, as if he's examining a specimen under a microscope. The intensity unsettles me, and I glance away. I tell Ethan I'm sorry and try to explain that I've fallen out of love with him and into love with Liam. I want to cause him as little pain as possible, but I need a divorce so that I can move forward. Now that the words are spoken, I pause, searching for any crack in his composure. A twitch, the hint of tears, a clenched fist. But there's nothing. His lack of reaction is almost more frightening than an outburst would have been. I feel my eyes dart toward the baseball bat I left by the bookcase. The silence stretches unbearably, and I feel compelled to break it. The speech I had practiced vanishes from my mind. I explain that I never wanted to hurt him until it was absolutely necessary. I hope he realizes that Liam and I have been careful, not wanting him to find out until it was unavoidable, which is now. Out of respect, we've limited our time together to avoid hurting him. Be together? You mean avoiding me? I can't bring myself to respond or meet his gaze. I'm out of lies. I have nothing left to cover the truth. I respect him too much to keep up any pretense, but I had hoped he wouldn't press, wouldn't make it sound so cheap. My silence confirms everything, and Ethan doesn't need any further explanations or apologies. He and I both know that I'm prepared to hurt him. The atmosphere in the room is suffocating, and I ache to leave. The tension is so thick that my skin prickles with discomfort. Ethan isn't outwardly expressing his pain, but I know him well enough to feel the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. I anxiously wonder which reaction he'll choose, fearing all of them. Somehow, this tension has to break for me to begin my life with Liam. Ethan fixes his gaze on me for what feels like an eternity before finally saying, "Okay, Sophia." I respond almost reflexively, asking what he means by okay. Does he really just agree to a divorce to let me go so easily? His tone is calm, his face unreadable. I lean back, stunned. This reaction is unexpected, catching me off guard. I feel a strange mix of insult and shock.
No questions, no accusations, no anger, no cheers?
After 28 years together, is he really not going to spend even 5 minutes questioning me? After months of hiding my relationship with Liam, of restless nights agonizing over this moment, I feel discarded in less than 10 minutes without any sign of emotion from him. I know I should say something, but I'll need to choose my words carefully. I hesitate, searching for a way to breach his cold composure without jeopardizing my future with Liam. Finally, I mention how, after all these years together, he's willing to just walk away. Ethan calmly responds, pointing out that I've already left him emotionally. So why wouldn't he let go? He talks about preserving the good memories by parting ways now rather than fighting over what's already gone. It's an answer, but not the one I'd hoped to hear. Before I can ask another question, he continues, saying he assumes I have papers ready for him to sign. And I do. A signed and notarized divorce petition, tucked away in Liam's car. We hadn't expected tonight to go this far or for Ethan to be ready to see the papers so soon. Before I can rise to get them, Liam stands up and heads outside. I watch him go, feeling the weight of the tension affecting him, too. In the uneasy silence left by Liam's exit, I offer a genuine apology to Ethan, feeling the weight of the pain I've caused him. He stands, and my eyes instinctively flick to the bat. Without a hint of forgiveness, he waves off my apology, saying that if I were truly sorry, I wouldn't have done this to him. He strides into the kitchen to grab another beer, cutting off any further conversation. When he returns, Liam is back too, holding a manila envelope at his side. Ethan takes a few quick steps toward him, and my heart sinks as Liam stumbles backward, catching the edge of the couch and landing with a soft thud. Ethan snatches the envelope and looks my way, his face flushed as he realizes how intimidating he appears. With my eyes, I try to convey that I still care for him, even love him in a way. I turn to face Ethan, who watches me with a detached expression. I still can't tell what he's thinking, and a part of me worries he might actually lash out at Liam. I warn him that Mary knows we're here, and I told her to call the police if she doesn't hear from us by 8. I urge him to place any blame on me and not direct his anger at Liam. Ethan's reply is curt. He says he does blame me, reminding me that it was me, not Liam, who made all those promises years ago. He assures me that he doesn't want Liam to suffer, at least not more than he's already bound to. I ask him what he means by that, confused. Ethan looks at me, his face softening into that patient expression he gets when explaining something he thinks I may not understand. He tells me that, at my age, I can no longer give Liam children, meaning he'll go through life childless, missing out on the fundamental joys of fatherhood. Ethan claims that, for a man, there's no greater loss than never experiencing the wonder of a child's first steps, the joy of hearing a little one call him Dada. He explains how Liam will miss the moments of teaching a child to throw a ball, ride a bike, helping with schoolwork, even teaching them to drive. Ethan adds that Liam will never know the pride of being a daughter's hero or a son's role model. He also predicts that once our kids learn about our affair, they may want nothing to do with Liam. His words chill me to the bone. I shiver, realizing for the first time that I hadn't fully considered the impact on my kids in all of this. I try to reassure Ethan, telling him he doesn't have to tell them. Ethan's gaze sharpens. He asks if I expect him to lie to our children the way I lied to him. I bow my head, unable to respond, but he continues, pointing out that Liam is choosing to be with someone who's proven she can hurt those she claims to love, someone who's perfected the art of hiding secrets. He suggests I imagine how Liam will feel the first time I tell him I have to work late, or that I'm meeting friends, excuses I once used to see Liam himself. Then he shifts his focus to me. Ethan paints a bleak picture of our future together. In 5 years, when I'm starting to show my age, Liam will still be a fit, trim 40-year-old. Ethan questions whether Liam will hesitate to leave me, having already seen what I'm capable of. He lists my habits, my occasional crankiness, my loud snoring, and hints that Liam will soon discover even more of my imperfections. Stung by his comments, I jump to my feet, ready to respond, pointing out that I'm not the only one who snores and that I at least know how to color coordinate. I open my mouth to list Ethan's own faults, but I freeze as I see Liam's expression. He looks as though Ethan's words are hitting home. I realize that, for Liam's sake, I need to end this and get him out of here. Ethan only shrugs as I sink back down onto the couch, anger and hurt swirling inside me. Is this really what he's thought of me all these years? How much of this has he been holding back? I want to retaliate, to say something that will wound him in return. After all the months I spent carefully hiding my relationship with Liam, trying to protect Ethan from this moment, I suddenly want him to feel some of my pain. But I'm frozen, watching him take a long drink before tearing open the envelope. I drop my gaze to my hands, unwilling to meet Liam's eyes, hoping he isn't looking at me either. Ethan mutters something about half the house. He lifts his gaze, his expression tight as he tells me he disagrees. He says the house was his before we even met. He concedes that I might get away with half the bank account, though he hints there's less in there than I think. He acknowledges the likely division of our retirement accounts, but points out that I won't see anything from it until he retires in 17 years. Ethan's silence stretches on as he scans the divorce document. I catch myself wondering if Liam's love will survive the reality that our financial future won't be what I'd confidently promised him. Ethan's words echo in my mind about the difference between an artist and a pizza, how a pizza can feed a family, while Liam's life as an artist has kept him from any stable income. It's a stinging reminder that this new chapter might come with sacrifices I hadn't anticipated. Finally, Ethan looks up, noting that everything in the agreement seems reasonable except for the house. He remarks that my lawyer will charge me a fortune just to fight for it, and then, as if he's already moved on to logistics, he asks what we do next. He suggests I hire a lawyer, and he muses about packing a few things. But I interrupt, bluntly telling him that I want him to leave right now. Ethan pauses, then calmly suggests he could drop my things off at Liam's next weekend, since he plans to change the locks in 2 days. If I forget anything, he says I can email him. He tells me to take the family pictures, except for the ones of the kids, which we'll divide. He only asks to keep one photo of us together from our cruise last year. It's strange, given his desire to erase every trace of me. The memory of that cruise tugs at me. That photo he wants to keep was taken just a few months into my affair with Liam. I wasn't in love with Liam back then, still happy enough with Ethan and oblivious to where this path would lead. That picture shows a smiling woman, freshly in love with her husband. Why does he want it? My thoughts are interrupted when Ethan turns directly to Liam for the first time. He mentions Liam's current address, accurately recalling it as 58 Gravela instead of Liam's old address on Belmont. I freeze, realization flooding in. Ethan knew where Liam lived. And not just recently, he's known for at least 4 months. How long had he known, and how did I miss it? We had been so careful, or so I thought. I mentally revisit all the quiet dinners, close moments, exchanged gifts, dates, birthdays, our anniversary, mornings, nights, family time, and in none of it did I sense any shift in Ethan. I look at Ethan, feeling a strange blend of familiarity and distance. This man who has shared my life for 28 years is suddenly a mystery. He's the one who held my hand through childbirth, whom I nursed through the flu, the man who supported me through morning sickness and a medical emergency. How could I have missed any change in him? Or perhaps, how could he keep something so big hidden from me? It dawns on me that I thought I was the expert at deception, the actress playing my part flawlessly. But Ethan's performance outshone mine. He knew and hid his knowledge perfectly. If he really loved me, wouldn't he have struggled to keep such a painful truth concealed? The thought stirs something unsettling, and I'm forced to ask myself if true love can coexist with such deception. But evidently, I hadn't hidden my own secret as well as I'd believed. Ethan had seen right through me. I find myself looking at him, but not the man in front of me. I'm picturing him from just 2 weeks ago, undressing me with that same tenderness and desire he'd always shown. All of it a lie, knowing what he did. I remember how hard I worked to keep my guilt from showing, to respond with affection, to hide my disloyalty. The tears I swallowed, the silent apologies I made to Liam in those moments, all while touching Ethan, pretending my heart was fully his. The shame of it all burns as I recall the battles with myself. The urge to recoil, the intense guilt when my body betrayed me with pleasure. Afterward, I'd lie there beside him, wide awake while he slept, feeling torn between both men, remorseful and conflicted. So many nights played out this way, my heart racing not with love, but with fear and stress. I kept every word rehearsed, every expression in check, my nerves frayed from juggling lies and protecting Ethan from the truth. And yet, he had known all along. All that hiding, all the carefulness and calculated deceit, for nothing. As I look at him, questions rise in me like a tidal wave. Did he ever love me? Has all of this been a performance? How much of our life was real? Was it just the last few months he pretended? Or did it stretch further back to our very beginning? I hear echoes of those harsh words he threw at Liam, the things he said about me, and they sting, revealing what he might truly think. My eyes burn with unshed tears, my stomach twisting with rejection and anger. I reach for my Chardonnay, hoping it might dull the edge, but as I sip, the wine tastes sour. Ethan, noticing, plucks the glass from my hand and, with Liam's half-finished drink in his other, strides toward the kitchen. A casual reminder that this home is now only his. Without looking back, he throws a curt, dismissive command over his shoulder to hurry. Liam's already outside by the car, waiting. I turn to find Liam gone from the room, not waiting for me. We won't be leaving together after all. 4 years later, I close the magazine in my lap, realizing I haven't absorbed a single article. It's no great loss. The content's probably as outdated as the cover date confirms. 3 years old. I sigh, amused at the thought that a practice as well regarded as this one could at least afford some current reading material. Replacing the magazine on the stack, I grab another, flipping through pages as I sit, waiting for my name to be called. When I hear Mrs. Taylor, it doesn't register at first, only catching my attention on the second call. For a moment, I feel a little foolish. It's been 4 years, but I'm still not used to being Mrs. Taylor instead of Mrs. Davis. I gather my things, shoulder my bag, and head toward the consultation room. The doctor greets me warmly. "Hello, Mrs. Taylor. What brings you in today?" "I'm here to have my Implanon replaced," I reply. He nods, saying it's noted in my appointment file. then suggests it might be worth discussing contraception options with my husband. A vasectomy might be a good, long-term alternative, he adds with a smile. I mirror his smile, keeping my tone light and neutral. Maybe next time. Internally, though, I feel a flash of satisfaction. Liam and I have been going back and forth on this issue for months now. I've argued that it makes no sense for me to keep altering my body chemically when he could easily get a quick and minimally invasive procedure. I even pointed out that it could be done here in this very office, unlike my only permanent alternative, tubal ligation, a much more invasive surgery. During one particularly heated debate, I remembered Liam mentioning he'd had the mumps as a kid, so I asked him to get tested. My plan was simple. If his results showed he was already infertile, I could stop the birth control altogether. He refused, stubborn as ever. But my stubbornness matched his, and after one especially harsh argument, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I collected a sample of his, stored it properly, and sent it off for analysis. The results came back a few days later. To my surprise, Liam wasn't just low on viable sperm, he was sterile. Completely.
No viable sperm whatsoever.
At first, I was eager to confront him with the results, feeling victorious. But soon a bit of caution crept in. I wanted to avoid constant arguments and find peace again, not turn my marriage into an endless battleground. I missed real closeness, real connection. Plus, I remembered how convenient it is not to have monthly periods. So, I opted for another implant. This won't be forever, I remind myself. Dr. Liam's voice brings me back to the moment. I'd zoned out, and he's patiently repeating himself. He suggests a new type of contraceptive implant, explaining how it also monitors health metrics like pulse rate throughout the day and provides diagnostic insights when scanned at the clinic. It's like having a mini health tracker under your skin. If you feel off, it'll help us see any changes in real time. Very space-age technology, he says with a grin. I laugh. It sounds like something out of Star Trek. Are there any side effects I should worry about? I don't want to start growing whiskers or putting on weight. And does it stop periods like the Implanon? He chuckles and reassures me. It's gentler than Implanon, with fewer disruptions. And yes, most women either stop their period or experience significantly lighter cycles. Okay, sounds good, I say, agreeing to the implant switch. Dr. Liams turns back to his monitor, clicking through his system. Suddenly, he murmurs, "Oh, what?" and rubs his neck, his tone laced with confusion. What the? I glance from him to the screen, sensing something's off. How long did you say you've had your implant in? He asks, looking at me. 5 years. Why? How is that possible? He says, sounding stunned. Are you certain? It looks like you already have a Vanguardian implanted. Your medical data just downloaded. What? I stammer, completely bewildered. Dr. Liams explains that Vanguardians have only been in use for 18 months. Yet my records show I'm already fitted with one. I protest, saying I haven't been to a doctor in over 2 years. He turns back to the screen, visibly paling as he continues examining the data. He mutters about seeing information going back 4 years and is perplexed by the presence of WAV files, which are audio files. He speculates it might be a glitch, that someone else's Vanguardian might be linked to my patient profile. Yet, the timing doesn't make sense, and he's baffled to see a Google Map flag marking the clinic location in the records. Trying to make sense of it all, he suggests examining my implant. My mind reels as I lie down on the examination bench, turning my head away, hoping to avoid any needles or instruments. It's definitely a Vanguardian, he says, and I hear his disbelief. But it's a bit longer and wider than standard. Curious, I turn my head to see him studying my implant, comparing it with an image on his screen. My eyes land on the top of the page. Vanguardian. The name stirs a memory. Vanguardian, that was the pseudonym of a writer on the site where Ethan read stories about cheating spouses. Could this be a coincidence? The rest of the appointment passes in a haze. We'll figure this out, Mrs. Taylor. Dr. Liams assures me. There's probably a mix-up with your old implant, or you might have been in a trial program without knowing it. I'll get our tech team to reach out to Vanguardian, and we'll follow up with you. I nod numbly, moving to the reception desk to pay my bill. As I walk to my car, fragments of past conversations flash through my mind, jumbling together in the confusion. There's a clause in my employment contract stating that the company owns all my research and inventions, even if I worked on something independently at home. I'm not allowed to patent anything for 12 months after resigning. Ethan had always been fascinated by research and innovation. That was his real strength. A vivid memory surfaces of Ethan sitting with Liam and me in the living room, wearing his worn jeans and casual polo. I remember the shock of seeing how little was left in our savings when we divided assets, and his insistence on keeping that framed photo from the Caribbean cruise, taken just a few months after my affair with Liam had started. Stunned, my hands drop to my lap as it all clicks. I remember getting my implanon inserted just before that cruise, at Ethan's suggestion. He'd proposed it to avoid any interruptions during our vacation, which I'd thought was considerate. Looking back, I realized the clinic where I got the implant wasn't my usual one. I'd switched clinics after our separation since our former doctor, Dr. Walker, was close friends with Ethan's father and had inspired Ethan's medical research career. Continuing with him after the divorce felt uncomfortable. But now a horrifying thought takes shape. If Ethan knew about Liam from the start, it's possible he convinced Dr. Walker to implant a different device. A Vanguardian? Secretly fitted with GPS tracking and audio recording capabilities. Could Ethan have orchestrated this to monitor me? The idea seems surreal, illegal even, yet I don't recall the full terms of what I'd signed that day. I hadn't read the forms carefully. Dr. Walker is retired now, living in Brazil with his much younger wife. I wonder if he could be held accountable. Though Brazil lacks an extradition treaty, a haven for war criminals decades ago, the implications overwhelm me. Why would anyone develop an implant with GPS and recording abilities? I wonder, can't have been just to track me. But then, a chilling possibility dawns on me. Of course, military applications. A device like that would be perfect for them. I recall that Ethan once worked on a project for diabetic soldiers, an implant to stabilize blood sugar without daily injections. Adding GPS and recording features wouldn't be much of a stretch. As my mind races, I start piecing together the timeline. Around the time of our Caribbean cruise, or maybe soon after, Ethan must have left his job. No wonder our savings dwindled so fast. He had us living off them. I never paid attention to our accounts. I relied on my credit card, and Ethan managed the bills. I remember him insisting on framing that cruise photo himself. Could it have been more than just a keepsake? Could it have held some kind of scanner for my implant? Impossible, I try to convince myself, but deep down I know it's entirely likely. That's why he was so insistent about hanging it in the hall, right by the coat rack, and why he didn't want me to have it in the divorce. He must have feared I'd reframe it or give it to the kids, who might have discovered its true function. The weight of it all settles over me, pressing down like a vice around my chest. It feels like something out of a Jason Bourne or James Bond film, yet my gut tells me it's real, all of it. No wonder Ethan didn't feel the need for revenge in the divorce. He'd already secured his financial retribution, and there's no way I can take action now. Dr. Walker, the one who likely implanted the device, is untouchable in Brazil, and Ethan would have made sure I signed some kind of consent form. As if that wasn't bad enough, nearly 4 years have passed since our divorce was finalized. I'll receive a portion of his retirement someday, but the millions he must be making from Vanguardian likely flow through corporate channels I'll never touch. I reach for my arm, feeling the spot where my new implant rests, and a wave of nausea rises. I can't even tell Liam. Things have been rocky enough between us without revealing the depths of my ex-husband's betrayal. Ethan lives in a luxurious beachfront villa in the Algarve now, a paradise my kids rave about. Meanwhile, here I am, pulling into the gravel driveway of the cramped, run-down cottage Liam and I share. I don't even remember the drive home, hoping I didn't run any red lights. A traffic fine would be the final straw after everything I've uncovered today. On autopilot, I unlock the door and step inside. Liam is on the couch, and his expression freezes me in place. He looks tense, and next to him sits a woman. A girl, really, no older than 30, visibly pregnant, her hand clasped in his. She's nearing the end of her term. There's no mistaking that. 2 glasses of Chardonnay sit on the table in front of them. Liam clears his throat. Sophia, we have to talk.